Welcome to the Oroville City Council meeting of November 2nd, 2021, where we are reconvening from closed session, where direction was given and no action was taken. Will you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to presentations and proclamations. I believe we have one.
We do, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, this proclamation is recognizing the month of November 2021 as Homeless and Runaway Youth Awareness Month. Is there someone here to accept this proclamation?
Your mic should be on.
What's your name? Emily. Sure. Meet you. Okay, from the City of Oroville, this is a proclamation recognizing the month of November 2021 as Homeless and Runaway Youth Awareness Month. Whereas California has an estimated 200,000 homeless youth, including some 2,000 K through 12 students in Butte County. And whereas approximately 25% of youth exiting foster care will experience homelessness, and whereas natural disaster and lack of affordable housing have exacerbated youth homelessness across rural California, and whereas a high percentage of homeless youth have been physically, sexually, or emotionally abused by their guardians and are frequently re-victimized and exploited while living on the streets and in shelters. And whereas LGBTQ plus young adults are at 120% higher risk of homelessness when compared to their peers, and comprise about 40% of the unaccompanied homeless youth population. And whereas the citizens of Oroville are the key to ending youth homelessness by acting as mentors and role models for our youth, guiding them toward available resources, productive choices, and by creating opportunities for youth to successfully transition into healthy, happy, and successful adults. Whereas Oroville's youth are a vital community asset, bringing unique knowledge, idealism, skills, perspective ideas, and creativity to the community, all vital parts to shaping and developing a viable and desirable city. And now, therefore, I, Chuck Reynolds, Mayor of the City of Oroville, in concurrence with the Oroville City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2021 as Homeless and Runaway Youth Awareness Month in the City of Oroville.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Thank you so much
Okay.
for your support for this.
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
Thank
God
you.
bless you. Okay, at this time, we're going to open the meeting for public communications. This is a time for a hearing of non-agenda items. So if your item that you wish to speak on is on the agenda, this is not the time to speak about it.
Mr. Mayor, I received 2 blue cards for non-agenda items. Mr. Bill Spear, and Kay Castro.
Vice Mayor, City Council. I'd like to read a couple verses. It says, they defiled themselves by what they did, by their deeds. They prostituted themselves. I'm sorry, I started too early. They shed innocent blood, bless your word, Lord. They shed innocent blood, the blood of their sons and their daughters, whom they sacrificed to the idols of Canaan. Therefore the land was desecrated by their blood. They defiled themselves by what they did, and their deeds they prostituted themselves. Therefore the Lord was angry with his people and abhorred his inheritance. He gave them over to the hands of nations and their foes to be ruled by them. I think that's where we are. I think our problems are a lot bigger than we think. We're being ruled by our foes that don't have the best interest of our of the American people. And so we need to pray. That's the answer. So Father God, in the name of Jesus, we lift up our nation to you, Lord. We lift up the church. We pray that you would wake up the church to see that it's time to wake up and to be counted. The American people, that you would wake them up to see the importance of our children. I pray this is what it wakes them up for, the born and the unborn. What a terrible thing it is that we let happen, and not just in our nation, but around the world. Father, we need you now more than ever. We pray that this is just the beginning of a great awakening. I thank you for the city council here and for their stand, and I pray an anointing upon them that breaks off every lie of the devil and every curse of the enemy. I pray for our city, Lord, that you would use our city as an example for other cities to see a God who loves his people. In Jesus'
Next speaker, I have Kay Castro and then the cameraman.
Good evening, everyone. All right, I just have to say, I still have chills from hearing everyone saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
So thank you.
And I do. I just have chills. So let's keep the under God in there, please. The Eagles had a very, very, very successful dinner the other night, and we have over $1,500 donation to give to the Canine Police Fund, whatever it's called. So we're very excited about the community support that we had for that, and for the opportunity to help that unit within our police department. I also want to remind you of Veterans Day is coming up, and the Exchange Club is once again planning a fantastic parade for you. Richard Warmack, who is in 4 tours of World War II, is going to be our Grand Marshal. And yes, it is the real Richard Warmack. It's not his son. It's not his. It is the real honest one. He's 97 years old now. So I hope you all come out to see him. And applications can be found if you'd like to have a float or a car or a truck or a horse. The applications are on the Chamber of Commerce website. Thank you.
Last speaker, the cameraman.
Good evening, Oroville City Council. Well, many of you know, many of you may not know, but back in September on the 23rd, I was arrested by Sergeant Sanzone of the Oroville Police Department for 148A1 of the Penal Code, even though that I was engaged in 148 subsection G of that same Penal Code, which states that any person engaged in recording of police officers in a public place where they have the right to be cannot be considered a violation of subdivision 148A1, which I was arrested for. But subsequently, he did not care. He arrested me. I was taken down to the Butte County Jail. I was booked, processed, and released sometime afterward. But missing one crucial item, my Sony Handycam. It was stolen from me. And I say stolen because I shouldn't have been arrested for what I was doing. a constitutionally protected right. And it was held at the Oroville Police Department for evidence for I think it was about 5 days until I was able to retrieve it. It was no longer considered as evidence, but evidence of what? They had their own cameras, so everything should have been recorded by their own camera. Why did they need mine? But regardless, I have a court date of December 10th at 8:30 in the morning, so anybody's welcome to attend and see if I even get that far, if charges are dropped or not. I've been in constant communication with the DA's office, and there's, they say, well, we have no charges, we see nothing. So I'm in constant communication. They have yet to receive charges, so we'll see what happens. Thank you.
This is our last speaker on non-agenda items.
He was the last speaker. Okay, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
I move that we adopt the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Motion carries, 7 yeses.
Okay, moving on to regular business. Item number 7, software purchase.
Good evening, Mayor Reynolds and council members. I have a staff report here for software purchase. I'm sure you heard me.
Excuse me a minute, Ruth. I'd like to remind the council chambers to remain in order so we can hear the speaker. Thank you.
You've been hearing from me recently that we did an RFP for software, and we finally found one that we would like to purchase. I have our IT manager and our assistant community development director here. We have all bought into this software. We all think it's great. We've been with our software that we currently have about 5 years, and at that time it was the shiny new product at that time, but they really haven't kept up with the development and the updates, and so it's actually gone downhill. We found something that we really like, and we're hoping that you would consider its purchase.
Do we have any questions or comments from the public on this item?
I do not have any speakers on this item.
Do we have any questions or comments from this dais? Councilmember Pittman?
Yeah, thank you. Does the software merge with Trackit, our other program, or not?
So we are eliminating Trackit.
Okay.
Trackit is actually owned by the finance software that we have, so they're all the same company. And so we want to get rid of Trackit as well, and we're going to get a new community development module that will completely change the way we're doing business. It's going to be super easy for our citizens to pay their business license taxes online and things that we aren't doing now that we really need to do. And Dawn has a lot of information about that side of the software.
So with this new software, it will be an outward-facing portal to apply for building permits, renew business licenses, and there's also going to be a portal that contractors can view on their phones, and they can schedule inspections right from their phones. They can track it's a specific contractor portal to where they can track all of their current open building permits, and it'll send them reminders when permits are due to expire or when a inspection is needed. So it's a great portal and tracking tool for all of our contractors, as well as the business application portal for business licenses. You can apply online, you can renew online, which is wonderful. Also, it would be an online paperless electronic plan review for building permits. So we won't have to be taking in rolls of plans anymore and sending them out. We can take them in electronically, send them directly to our consulting plan reviewer, and so it makes a streamlined process and eliminates the paper.
Councilmember Goodson wishes to speak.
Don, I'm just curious, didn't we have a contract agreement with them, Trackit? And if so, is there a monetary cost in an early departure?
We did have a contract agreement. We were set to update our software with Trackit recently. That consulting firm did not perform as we had hoped that they would, so we had canceled that agreement with them to move forward and piggyback on the finance software RFP. And Tyson might be able to add more to that.
Councilperson Goodson, we're also right now contemplating litigation because of their failure to perform and the amount of dollars we've utilized to this to migrate data to the new platform from the old platform, and they're just total and utter lack of performance. Another piece of information that you should be aware of, the financing of this most likely can come from your ARPA dollars, which is your one-time COVID monies, because this is outward facing. It reduces people's interaction with or the necessity to come to City Hall to conduct business. So you can use COVID dollars for this. I would recommend that we continue wading through that, evaluating that, and bring that funding strategy back to you, because if you do that, then you can save your hard general fund dollars for other things that are can be more versatile than these one-time dollars.
So you brought up something very interesting. You said that we could potentially use COVID dollars.
Correct.
So it's my understanding that once we had accepted COVID dollars, that we have to be in compliance with all the guidelines and the regulations.
Yes, we
Right.
received these dollars last June or July. I'm not sure when they came in, and we were in compliance.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Riggs.
Thank you, Mayor Reynolds. You've mentioned the online interface available through this program. I just wanted to double check that paper applications and traditional applications and permits will still be available, as some people don't embrace technology as easily as others.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank you for finding ways to streamline that process. One of the frequent complaints that I receive is, a fumbling of the ball in moving documents for contractors, businesses. So being, again, pro-business, helping facilitate, because time is money, as we all know. And so a day saved is a dollar made. So just thank you.
Yes. And just to let you know that this process will take about 1.5 years, because there's a lot of data that needs to be built and integrated to get this off the ground, but it will be a much more efficient program going forward.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions from this dais? Having none, looking for a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a 5-year agreement with Tyler Enterprises for annual software service.
So moved?
I second.
Okay, moving on.
Motion carries.
Moving on to item number 8, acceptance of proposal from D.H. Slater and Son Incorporated for the Dispatch Center and Capital Improvement Project.
Good evening again, Mayor Reynolds and council members. This is a request to consider a proposal with D.H. Slater and Sons for the demolition and repair of the public safety facility, specifically the dispatch center, the EOC, and the front lobby. Following the removal of the previous construction company for lack of performance, which again, we are currently pursuing potential litigation with that contractor, we pushed forward a request for proposal or bids in July 1 of this year. The project was published on Public Purchase and the Valley Contractors Exchange. We held 3 mandatory bid walks for this project with numerous contractors and subcontractors in attendance. The project closed on October 26th with 3 contractors providing proposals. The lowest and most qualified contractor was, in fact, D.H. Slater and Sons at a cost of $1,246,832. And again, this project will update our existing training room, also be able to allow it to be an emergency operating center, or EOC. Also, with COVID, we have reevaluated how our front lobby functions. So we have expanded the lobby so distancing can be allowed. We've added 2 front windows so multiple customers can be tended to at one time. and the front doors will be replaced with a new storefront. There will also be bollards in the front, so no more vehicles can enter that front storefront. And upgraded accessible parking. So with that, we are requesting to move forward with this contract with D.H. Slater and Sons with a 15% contingency. Also, requesting the appropriations be made for the project.
Do we have any members from the public that wish to speak on this item?
I have no request to speak on this item.
Councilmember Goodson?
Don, I have a question in regards to the elevator. Was it my understanding that there was a freight elevator that was put in? And so I'm just going to assume that it is now being transitioned out with a passenger elevator.
That is correct.
All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Pittman?
Yeah, essentially, that was my question about the elevator, because I know the previous contractor installed the wrong kind of elevator. Is there any more bathroom facilities or shower facilities being added, or just repair the existing ones?
Upgrade the existing ones in the upper locker rooms, and then the lower level will be upgraded as well
Okay.
in the main lobby.
And then is the main lobby going to be larger in square footage?
Yes,
or-
it'll almost double in size.
Okay, well, that's good, and the repairs are going to be done from the vehicle into the building. So
Yes.
That's good to hear. I know it's considerably more than what we had the last contract, but I also realize there's a lot more work to be done here. So,
Correct. A lot of demolition to be done.
Yeah, thank you.
And some of the issues that came along through this project that were discovered, which is, sometimes bad things have good things that occur, is there is some structural issues with that building that have been in existence for many years that were unknown to everyone. Fortunately, during this process, it was discovered, and there will be some structural upgrades to support the second floor in the building. So a lot of this cost is in those structural upgrades.
It's not surprising, because when it was built in 1982, it cost $1.2 million to build the whole building.
Right.
But they had to go back and put columns in place of the brick because they found out they didn't put any steel in the masonry block.
Right.
So it's not surprising to find no steel in the other side.
Yeah, we know who did it.
Yeah.
We didn't do that, John.
That's why you see those tall columns in the fire department side, because the contractor was putting plywood on the roof and bumped the wall, and the walls all fell down. So,
Right.
yeah, it
Well,
was
and for
not a good
being
building.
39 years old, this building also operates 24/7, so it is a very well-used facility.
Councilmember Goodson?
Yes, Don, since we're remodeling, I sit on I'm a commissioner on the Juvenile Justice and Detention Prevention Board. And so one of our concerns in any of the facilities that we have to tour and inspect is, what does the facility look like in regards to making allowances for temporary housing of youth offenders that pass by with a maximum of 6 hours in one facility that is an adult. And so I'm just wondering if there has been any talk in regards to a separate quarter for those youth offenders.
No, there's
Just
not,
separate.
that's not a policy of the Oroville Police Department to even bring youths into the building. Youths are usually maintained in the cars and immediately transported to juvenile hall because of those exact issues. There is not capacity
There's
within.
never a time when the youth
It's very
are-
seldom.
It's seldom,
I mean,
but
unless
it
it's
does
an
happen.
extreme case, they're typically held in the car and then immediately transported because we do not have the capacity or the facilities to properly facilitate their time with us. So they are moved rather rapidly out to juvenile hall. And the issue you run into is you have limited space. I mean, and it's just
Okay.
not, it's a small, it looks big, but it's really, once you get everything inside, it's a fairly small building.
Okay.
Councilmember Riggs?
Thank you. Considering the blunder that we've experienced with the previous contractor, how many bids did we receive for the new work?
3 bids.
Okay, and we feel like this one is the most qualified and able to perform
Yes.
with the capacity we need? Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Pittman?
Yeah, you just made me feel old at 29 years old, that building. That's terrible. One thing that does happen out in the parking lot quite often is exchange of custody battles with kids. Are there going to be more cameras added to the exterior parking lot facilities?
That hasn't been a part of this
Okay.
remodel, but that's something that can be considered in the future.
I would consider it because it does happen there, and it's what most judges prefer to have done when they have custody things change, and it's been somewhat difficult for the fire department to deal with. So I'm not trying to provide it, but just more cameras outside would be probably a very good thing.
And I can defer that to.
Yeah, there are Homeland Security dollars that are available for that, and an investment will be made. That investment hasn't been made at this time because of the upgrades to the lobby. The lobby will be an appropriate place for those exchanges now, whereas before it was just so small, it was just not a good situation. So yes,
Well,
we
it's-
will be adding those cameras.
Better than the day room at the fire department.
Yes.
The chief knows what I'm talking about over there. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from this dais?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add one more thing. We will be returning back to the council with a project manager. It's be a temporary thing, a small amount of money. I think it's important on a job this size, considering the experience that we've had, that we have an expert there that can understand everything that is going on. And when someone asks for a, what are they called? A change order, that the person that they're explaining it to fully understands what they're telling them, and before we return to you and ask for a large amount of money. So we will be returning with that because we want to assign this person to oversee this project because we cannot afford any more mistakes or problems on this job.
Thank you. That's very common. Owner's rep. Thank you. If there are no more comments, looking for a motion to adopt resolution number 9003.
So moved.
Second.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to item number 9, citizen participation, speaking time, and public electronic access to meetings.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. What you have before you tonight for your consideration is a pretty straightforward item. The first part of this item is non-agenda items, time for public speakers to speak. It's been requested multiple times by several community members that time be increased from 2 minutes to a greater number. The council, now would be an appropriate time for the council to discuss that and decide if you have any changes that you would like to that policy. The second issue that is presented in this item is the effects of AB 361 on Zoom meetings with the council. We discussed this at the last meeting, but it was not an agendized item, so that you could not take action on it at that time. Again, I will reiterate, staff's position is on this, is that we should revert back to and follow the Brown Act as it was originally presented and not enact any of the terms of AB 361. The reason being is because we are going through a districting process at this time, and that if there are anyone throws up a complaint, whether it's valid or not, or can be proven or can't be proven, any decisions that you make through that process can be challenged and undone and have to be redone, which means you could end up in an endless circle and never complete your task if somebody were to do that maliciously or with nefarious intent. So we are recommending that we leave it as it is, and that after we're complete with districting and you have that done, that you can potentially, if you choose, revisit that and then implement some of the changes of AB 361. I believe we covered that pretty thoroughly in the last meeting. If you would like a recap, we can give that to you. If you would like to just discuss and debate it amongst yourself and provide us direction, we're willing to take that.
Do we have any comments from the?
Mr. Mayor, I have one speaker on this item, the cameraman.
Good evening again, Oroville City Council. I'd just like to add on this item. I believe we should be going from 2 minutes in non-agenda items to 3 minutes. I don't think we really need to be going more than that. 3 minutes should be enough time to get across what you have to say. I, as a speaker myself, would like that extra minute to further clarify things sometimes, and I've seen it as well as with other speakers here at the podium, how they're cut off mid-sentence or they have to rush to get what they have to say across, and I just feel an extra minute for non-agenda items is not going to go too over. I'm not asking for an inch here and going to take a mile. I think another minute isn't going to kill anybody's time. Thank you.
That is our only speaker on this item.
Councilmember Pittman?
Oh, okay, I'm in, yeah. I didn't realize that, but I'm good. The issue that I have is I think that 3 minutes is the reasonable time that people should have to talk about it. But I'd also like to clarify, sometimes when a speaker mentions something, we as a council member may not get what they're talking about. So I'd like to add, a council person may use an optional 2 minutes to ask for clarification of what the speaker's talking about. And I'm saying the optional 2 minutes just so we can, address the conversation so it doesn't linger on and go on and on. So, and it would be at the option of the council member to say, I'd like to use my 2 minutes to ask for clarification of what the speaker said. That's kind of my preference and way to go, and I think it'll help us have a good two-way communication. I'm not sure if the attorney has any problem with that particular policy.
No, provided it's in writing and it is uniformly applied, I don't have any real issues with it. I would suggest that you don't necessarily want to get into a long back and forth question and answer.
Sure.
But a clarification of what someone is commenting about would, again, assuming the council approves that, I don't have any there are no legal impediments to that, so.
And this would be for non-agenda items that when the speaker comes up so that we make sure we understand what the person's saying.
Well, the time limit is, again, if you want to apply that to only non-agenda items, that you can certainly do that.
Yeah.
It could be applied to agenda items as well if someone was making a comment that you didn't understand. Again,
Oh, okay.
pleasure of the council. If you want to do that, that's fine. You can do it either way. You can apply it to one or the other agenda item versus non-agenda item, or both. Up to you. It's a pleasure of the council.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilman Pittman, if I have just a question for clarity of what you're suggesting. The 2 minutes, additional 2 minutes, is that per council person or 2 minutes total for the council?
Well, my intent is for one council person, 2 minutes. I think it'd probably better if the entire council wished to weigh on, then 2 minutes would be the limit. I'm not trying to extend it any longer.
Okay.
You're right. If you had 7 council members and 2 minutes apiece, we'd be here all half the night. So I think it's just 2 minutes for council to have
Clarifying
clarification.
questions.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And
I
just
agree.
with the understanding that everyone is under the understanding that no action can be taken on these items.
certainly.
These are non-agendized items.
Councilmember Riggs?
Thank you. I just wanted clarification. The way it's written and the way we're discussing it is about non-agenda items. Does the time, if we were to change the time, does that categorically change also speaking time on agenda items as well?
I believe that since this was brought forward as a non-agenda item, this is for non-agenda items and agenda items.
Okay.
I mean, so it is
Thank you.
listed
It
in there as
sounded like
both.
it was just for non-agenda
Right.
items, which to say
Right.
we
No,
have
this
3 minutes
item-
here and 2 minutes there, it's,
Right, no, this
Not gonna make things easy.
catches both of those, Councilperson Riggs.
thank you.
So I'll do something here that we don't usually have a full council chambers. Let's ask the public. How many of you would like to see 2 minutes? Raise a hand, please.
Wait, we should tell them what the options are
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
The
Okay.
options are 2 minutes or 3 minutes, right?
Oh, okay.
Isn't that what he's, Councilmember Pittman? We have 2 minutes now. You want 2 minutes?
All items.
All items.
Change it, every one of us in here could talk for 3 minutes. And then they can talk to you for 2 minutes. So 2 minutes.
I want 15.
Mr. Mayor,
It'll be an agendized item.
Mr. Mayor, just could I add a
Yes.
caveat to that? Because we do, I think, have a current policy. If we have more than 10 speakers, then it drops back to 2
It
minutes.
does.
So that
It
may
could-
need to be aware of that. So it would protect us if we did go to the 3 minutes from being here all night.
Okay, so how many would like 3 minutes?
Well, only 10 of you can talk.
Well, it looks like people are interested in 3 minutes.
All right. I can motion that.
So, do we have any more comment from this dais?
Does it need a motion?
With that, we will make a motion to change the speaking time for citizens to 3 minutes. And we will leave the What was the wording on that, Mr. LeBron?
We would be re-implementing the Brown Act as originally what we were previously doing with
Vice Mayor
the Brown Act.
Townsend, you want to speak?
Just the only thing, I'm in favor of that. The only thing I would like to see changed is instead of the mayor always having to cut people off, that either you or Jackie or whomever is there, because
Okay.
I think that's something that should be done as opposed to the mayor always cutting people off. You're quiet, your time's up. I mean, it just comes across as, yeah.
Okay, we can do that. If you'd like, you can purchase me a hook and I can. Yes, sir.
Back
We
to
can
2 minutes.
We will do that. We will probably also additionally make some modification to the council chambers, because I know at times when people are speaking, it's difficult for them to keep their train of thought and also try to watch the time and make eye contact with the council. So what I'm contemplating is a red, green, yellow light that's lower down here so that people can see as their time's approaching, so they know, so they can start wrapping up their thoughts.
And, yeah, because
Have one right
from
there.
what's happened in the past.
Yeah, but nobody sees that. It's.
What's happened in the past is you'll have, because it's good, I think it's important for council members to retain a good relationship with the community.
Yes.
And when you get businesses that come to town, I mean, we've had examples here where new businesses come to town, 2 minutes is up, and I think it's important, especially for a new business to come to town, potential employees and all that they bring to the table, to have, instead of open door, have the mayor cut them off and be like, there's the door, thanks for coming, you got your 2 minutes. So having staff do that, I think, is different than council can ask for more.
And again, I think that's an appropriate thing to do, and I'm, as the sometimes de facto parliamentarian, I know how people love lawyers, I'm more than happy to take that role on. I mean, I'm happy to do that, if that's the direction of the council.
Well,
And
one
we'll
thing that,
retain if we have more than 10, we drop down to 2 minutes. We'll retain that.
Yes, we will. We're going to make some changes to the agenda if the council approves this, extending the time to 3 minutes. Did the council, as part, just for clarity of what I'm hearing the council would like, is do you also want the 2 minute during the non-agenda items for clarification questions?
personally, I don't mind the clarification, but I don't know about 2 minutes. That's quite a while. That's 5 minutes per speaker. So sometimes when we have a controversial item, we've been here for, and the thing about it is, folks, is we'll get 15 people stand up and say the exact same thing. So, we just need to keep that in mind too, that a lot of and I know you could say, well, they signed up for it or whatever, but we do have staff that live out of town, and when we're saying the same thing over and over, that's why I asked for public communication first, so we don't end up in a circular conversation. It's a good idea to be able to clarify, because believe me, I hear a lot of stuff from that podium that needs clarification.
Mr. Mayor, I think to reach what you and Councilman Pittman would like to have on here, I think we can present language into the agenda that's there that says that, council will or may ask clarifying questions after your comments, and not put any limit on or say it's going to be a maximum of 2 minutes, or somebody
That's
feel
what I'm
like they
saying.
get a minimum.
That's a lot of pressure for the 2 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I think a good idea would be to say something like, council members may ask brief clarifying questions if needed. And I think, again, you can control that. The council members, you can all control that on an ad hoc basis. If someone may need 2 minutes of clarifying, someone may need 2 seconds of clarifying, and I think that's the thing that can be done on sort of an ad hoc basis.
And just a minute ago, you were going to handle all that, now you're sliding it back on.
Well, no. Remember, I agreed to handle only when the time limit is up, to tell them that they're done. And I'm
Okay,
happy.
so no trapdoor.
If you'll authorize.
Enforce the time. You let me figure out how to enforce the time.
Councilmember Goodson, did you wish to speak?
Yes, I recall at one time we had a 1 minute, and that was after so many people.
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
I believe it's after, I think it's 10 or 15
After 10?
commenters, then we reduce to 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Typically, if you have 10 or more speakers, you reduce the amount for all speakers to half of what is available if there are less than 10. So in this instance, if there were 3 minutes per speaker, if you have 20 speakers, then everybody gets 90 seconds instead of 180 seconds.
Okay.
Or
So,
3 minutes.
hearing what you've said, what we'll do is we will make some modifications to that language, and we will bring it, we will implement it for the next council meeting. Should you choose to change it, then we can, that's the beautiful part about all this, we can update it. So we will put it again on the agenda for the next council meeting. So if the language that we present on the agenda is not what you want or what you'd like to see or you would like more, then we will modify it at that time.
Okay, so at this time, we're just going to provide direction to staff.
I believe we have enough direction, Mr. Mayor, to move forward on this item.
Okay.
As I'm
Thank
hearing, just for clarity, to make sure I understand my counsel, is that right now, as far as AB 361, we are going to re-implement the Brown Act with no executive order exemptions as provided during the COVID pandemic, and we will revisit this issue sometime in the first part of next year.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, counsel.
Okay, moving on to item number 10. Resolution declaring the city of Oroville to be a constitutional republic city.
Mayor. Mayor and council members, at the request of Vice Mayor Thompson, I drafted this resolution with language that was again requested to be included to declare the city a constitutional republic city. Based on some of the public comments, the written public comments that we have received, I do want to make a couple of clarification points. One of the public comments that we received in writing was suggesting that this resolution was beginning the effort for Oroville to secede from California and from the Union. I have not expended any time to research whether that's possible, but that is not the intent of this resolution. Another set of, there were several comments that referred to this as declaring the city of Oroville a, and I will use the quote, Republican city. And this is not, that is also not accurate. The term republic is different than Republican, as you all know. And so I just want to clarify that this does not begin the process for the city to secede from the state and or the union, and that it would simply declare that the city of Oroville is a constitutional republic that is organized under the Constitution of the United States. And again, I'll defer to Vice Mayor Thompson.
Do you want public comment on this first? Do we have any public comment?
Mr. Mayor, I have over 10 cards on this item, so we are going to reduce the speaking time to 1:30. My first speaker is Mark Kearns, and then followed by Tasha Livingston.
Good evening, Mr.
Mike.
Here it goes. It's on.
I'm sorry. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody here ever heard of the state of Jefferson? That's the idea that people in Idaho want to annex some eastern counties in Oregon and some northern counties in California to form the state of Jefferson, which would be a constitutional republic. There's only one problem. A constitutional republic is actually neither constitutional nor actually a republic. What it would do is allow these people to ignore existing laws, like, for instance, anti-discrimination laws. And for instance, it would probably allow people to open carry their guns in the city. I mean, I'm a journalist, and I've heard this phrase for the last 40 years. And every time I've heard it, it's been accompanied by things which, as near as I can tell, are simply anti-decent living. I mean, these constitutional republic people would probably prevent mask mandates. In other words, they're looking to kill people, is what it is, because something like 55% of this county is not vaccinated at this point, and people are going to die.
Thank you. Thank you,
Speaker's
sir.
time has expired.
I'm going to give a little bit of clarification on that. A republic is actually what the country is under, and we live under laws. A republic lives under laws, and the people and the representatives will make the decisions for the communities. Actually, a democratic government is when the representatives, only 51% can do exactly what you're saying. They can make up laws if they want to. So we are living under a constitution republic. Thank you, sir.
Next speaker, Tasha Levingston, followed by Ken Malone.
And Ms. Levinson, would you hold on for a second? If I could ask members of the public, if you'd do me a big favor, please. We've got a lot of speakers tonight. Whether you agree or disagree, let's show some respect. Everyone should have their comments to be respected so they can speak.
I am against this, and part of why I'm against this is because I feel trapped in this mask by the fact that I'm living in an area where people won't look to protect the health of others. I have grandkids. I don't want to infect them with Delta. I don't want them to infect me with Delta. I don't want the guilt that would give to someone else. I just don't want that. I find it frightening that I am about 4 times more likely to be exposed here in Butte County than I am elsewhere in California, about 6 to 7 times more likely than I would be if I were in the Bay Area. And that's because of, to my mind, stubbornness that is really unnecessary. Thank you for your time.
Next we have Ken Malone, followed by Bill Spear.
Good evening, council and mayor. As a Bible-believing Christian, also a pastor in this county, and a citizen of the city, I am for this because I believe that people should be able to make their own choice. That's what our Constitution is allowing us to do. I respect everybody's beliefs. If you want to wear a mask, that's fine. But I do stand up for the republic and for which we stand, and we should be able to make our own choice. God has created our immune system, the most genuine and genius to fight these kind of things off. And our whole family got it. Our statistics now show that we are 30% stronger and from getting any kind of sickness after we've had it, or any sickness. But I'm still trying to figure out where the flu went. So I am completely for this. I think everybody should be able to make their own choice. And I hope that you will see that that happens. Thank you.
Next speaker, Bill Spear, followed by Dallas Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I am 100% for this. We are a constitutional republic. You know, I watched every one of you get sworn in, and you swore to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And what we have happening in our country is an attack from domestic against our constitutional rights. As individuals, being American, we have specific rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Just because a majority of people from one party get together and say, hey, we're going to do this or we're going to do that, the governor has acted way outside of, he's acting like a dictator. He's acting like a king. I'm going to make this mandate, I'm going to make that mandate because there's an emergency. Well, the emergency's been 2 years ago, and you know he's lost already in court, but the people are mad and the people are upset. I've been to school board meetings, and we should all start attending wherever we can, and the parents are mad, and it's going way past what anyone should be able to do. Our children should be able to be, what happens in their life should be by their parents, not by Sacramento, not by Washington, D.C. Thank you for standing up for Oroville. Thank you for standing up for our individual rights as Americans. I 100% support you. Thank you.
Have Dallas Thompson, followed by John Mitchell.
I think it's Thomas, by the way. It's Thomas. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking your time to hear us and hear our concerns today. I just wanted to show my support for the constitutional city agenda item. I think it's important for the public to hear our leaders reaffirm that they uphold the Constitution, especially right now when we have both federal and state and what we deem to be overreach. I think that for our city to become constitutional, I don't think that doing this confers any extra power. I know that there's fear and worry about that. It doesn't confer extra power to law enforcement. It doesn't confer extra power to our officials. It reaffirms that the people have the power, and it reaffirms the oath that you guys took to uphold it. So I just wanted to show my support for that. I think it's especially important given that we have potentially a vaccine mandates on the table. And as a parent, that's something I want to decide. I believe that that is something that is up to me. So I came here to show my support because I think we have a lot of things on the table right now that I think are run antithesis to our republic. Thank you.
John Mitchell, followed by the cameraman.
City Council, I'll keep this as brief as I can. I know many of us are going to say the same thing, but I just wanted to read this to you. This is from our own U.S. government's website. It says the Constitution refers to the fact that the government in the United States is based on a Constitution, which is the supreme law of the United States. And a republic is a form of government in which the people hold power but elect representatives to exercise that power. And in reading this as I have what you guys have written, and my understanding is what this would do was give our elected officials that we have elected to help oversee our city here the opportunity to say we believe that the government is overreaching and infringing on our citizens' rights, and so we are not going to enforce these things upon our citizens. And if that is the case, I completely stand behind this. I believe in science. I trust science. I don't trust our government. If I could put it any more bluntly, many of you are up here because the people of Oroville trust you. We've elected you to be our representatives and to help look out for our welfare. And so I stand behind this 100%. I thank you guys for looking out for us, and I hope you continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I would like to say something. Cameraman, you can come on. But I would like to say something. The language that you, as citizens, that you need to pay attention to is when someone declares a state of emergency, it doesn't matter if it's local, state, federal, that usually puts one person in charge. So watch that language. You can ask Mr. Pittman about a state of emergency for fire chief. That puts one person in charge. So you have to pay attention to who that person is, because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. I mean, you made a good point there, Mr. Mayor. When, somebody gets put in charge, it's usually one person. I mean, look at, the saying, art imitating life. Look at Star Wars, okay? They gave emergency powers to Chancellor Palpatine, and look what happened. Art imitating life, life imitating art. Anyways, I'll just keep this brief. I'm all for constitutional rights. I definitely would like to see our city government definitely embracing those and respecting those. I mean, it is the supreme law of the land. All of these things are not supposed to conflict with that, but usually they do, and it's up to us as members of the public to call them out on those issues and say, hey, you're conflicting with our rights. You need to be held accountable for that. And I think, this is an opportunity to give the city an opportunity to do that. everybody has a choice. That's what freedom is about. If you want to wear this or you don't want to wear this, that's fine. But don't start discriminating against people because of their choice and their right to pursuit of happiness, whether it be no vaccination, no mask, whether it be freedom of my right, like I like to engage in freedom of the press is my pursuit of happiness. Whatever pursuit of happiness you may participate in, as long as you're not discriminating against people and infringing upon their rights, why can't we all just get along? Thank you.
Speaker, we have Renee Gramps, followed by Nikki Small.
I'm short, gotta bring this down. Hi, everybody. It's my first time coming to one of these. Last time I was here, I actually accepted something because I'm a small business owner. So, but yeah, I'm just gonna get through this really quick here. So we've started a group called PAM. It's Parents Against Mandates, and we're starting to see quite a bit of I think it's effectiveness that's happening from it. I'm sure you guys all heard about the October 18th walkout that happened with a lot of the schools. Attendance was down, what we're hearing, 40 to 50%, and that's just in our local area. And as big of an impact that one day was, it wasn't everyone. You will see even greater effect with walkouts as this becomes more of reality to people. I'm no economist, but let's think about how this will affect our city. I know that probably some of your guys' concerns is if this happens, is how is this going to affect the bottom dollar for, I guess, our city and what have you, right? But again, I'm no economist, but let's think about how this will affect our city, state, and county if this mandate moves forward and we as a city do not give power back to the parents, the people, and the taxpayers of this area. What kind of an economic impact would 50% of the students being withdrawn from public schools have? That's 50% less funding, 50% less programs, 50% less teachers, and 50% less staff employed. This will lead to...
Your time's expired. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Nikki Small, followed by Steve Christensen.
So Pam's, and I wanted to point out, because there was comments about the political party or whatever against mandates, we are a group of parents, friends, grandparents, whatever. We're not Democrat, Republican, vax, unvax. Everybody's a group that does not want this mandated on our children. So we're not out to murder anybody. We just feel that we should have the right to not have to wear a mask, to watch a little 5-year-old when I ask, who's your new friend at school? And she says, the little boy with the tie-dye mask. She doesn't know his name, doesn't know what he looks like. That's not how our world should be. We shouldn't be locked up like that. So that's it. I want to say I approve of it. I think you guys are heroes. Thank you.
Steve Christensen, followed by Julie Williams.
I brought with me a copy of the Oroville Municipal Code, and there is some things written here that I assume you're supposed to live by. Under responsibilities of public office, public officials and employees are agents of public purpose and hold office for the benefit of the public. They are bound to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state, and to carry out impartially the laws of the nation, the state, and the city, thus to foster respect for all government. So to me, it's already in there. And then under sanctions, if people do not follow this code of ethics, it says that removal from office, suspension, unemployment, other disciplinary action. And in the case of the council, a majority of the council decides the disciplinary action. And I've seen times when the majority of the council did not live by this oath of office, and what are they going to do? Punish themselves? I think that needs to be considered. Thank you.
Julie Williams, followed by Janessa Rayner. Great. Janessa Rayner, followed by Tiffany.
Good evening. I'm so glad to be here in front of all of you and express my support of this measure. One thing that is already been repeated here tonight is that our local enforcement is bound by the U.S. Constitution, not state or federal overreach and regulation. So considering the current atmosphere of mandates that have been handed down and that are planned to be handed down from both the state and the federal level, it is becoming increasingly more important to secure Oroville, as well as our county, as a sanctuary constitutional city that will not only refuse to enforce unconstitutional mandates, and will not use city dollars to do so, but will stand in defense of our citizens against state and federal overreach. We would like to see this come to fruition, and we appreciate you, Scott, for all that you are doing for drafting this, and we thank you all for your service to our community. Thank you.
Tiffany?
Guys, thank you so much for letting us all speak to you this evening. I'd like us to refer back to what you had said about the future of our kids. I think it was really a big deal. I think it could reflect on what we're talking about tonight. And this is my motivation for speaking. I have two fantastic young men at Oroville City Schools. And we're hoping that becoming a republic or a constitutional republic city is the best step in order to regain and maintain our inalienable rights protected by the Constitution of the United States. What will be left if we don't have that? If we don't have body autonomy? If we can't protect our kids' bodies? What else are they going to want me to let them do to my kids? Where does it stop? I don't think following blindly to the state is the only option. Einstein said, unthinking respect for authority is the greatest enemy of truth. And that's what we're doing. It's what we're letting happen to the entire culture. It's heartbreaking.
Mr. Mayor, that was our last speaker on this particular item. We do have a speaker that has asked to speak. Their card was put in after the item was closed, so this is going to have to be a decision of the council. If you prefer to hear this speaker or not, you don't have to. If you do, we have to do it with the understanding that this is an exception. This is not the rule. This is not setting a precedent, but you do have that option. So it's up to you if you would like to hear this final speaker.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The last one is Julie C.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to say that I'm fully in support of the city passing this resolution. I think it'll give us another layer of protection for our liberties, as well as send a message to the higher-ups that we take our freedoms the Constitution guarantees seriously here in Oroville. So I just wanted to say that I support this. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just interrupt one more time. We've received 10 emails that are in support of this. Some of the speakers that spoke tonight also submitted emails. We will be forwarding those to you if you have not already received them in your email. We've received 7 emails from people that do not support this item and 2 that are asking for clarifying questions. And we will be attaching those to the minutes and also ensuring that you do have those emails.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Thompson, did you wish to speak?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo the sentiments of the mom who spoke and said, where does it stop? Just for clarification, this mandate is not saying we're against laws or for anarchy. It's just basically drawing a line. It's not necessarily against one specific mandate, We're not talking about one mandate that's been pushed on us recently. It's a barrage of mandates. And I think for every society, you have to have laws, but for each law that comes, that does mean a forfeit of some sense of freedom. And America itself, the very thread, the very fabric of America right now, I believe is at question. And we're at a crossroads of, what we're going to be, what the future of America is going to be like. I think if our founding fathers were even to see the amount of laws and oppression that we put on ourselves right now, they'd be blushed to their sacrifice that they had for us to be free. I think it's a time for us to draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough. This item tonight is not proposing anything that's anti-American. As already stated, we already are a constitutional republic. So it's just basically a statement for ourselves and for the higher ups. I'd love to see it go across California, for Californians to push back and say, I've heard other representatives say that, our governor currently believes it's one size fits all. And it does not appear to me that he listens to our constituents. When we had the Paradise Fire, he didn't visit us. He came to Paradise and took a photo up there and pushed on some other, global warming. It's like, do you even care about what the community? So anyway, it's not a one size fits all. And yes, are there dangers of what's going on right now? Absolutely. Is there a risk of infection and death? Absolutely. Is there always a reason for another law? Sure. But does that mean necessarily there always should be another law added, or should we protect some sanctity of freedom that we have as citizens? And so it's a reasoning for presenting this item tonight, and so I hope the council will also support it.
Now, I'd like to say that there's an old saying, and I use it every once in a while, when people are wondering how things got so out of whack or chaotic, and it is, you better dance with the one who brought you. And it was a constitutional republic that brought America to be a successful nation. It was built by the people, for the people. Do we need new laws sometimes? Sure, technology is changing. But how about we start following the ones we have before we start polluting the public with all kinds of new things? Let's keep it simple. Simple. Keep it simple, please. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As most of you know, Oroville is a charter city, and there's a reason for that. It's because our founders thought it was important that as a charter city that we would have an extra layer of autonomy. And the state constitution recognizes and honors that. So when it comes to the municipal code, it's really interesting when you dig down into our charter as a city and the extra powers. For an example, we could have our own health czar, according to Chapter 8.08, to respond to epidemics. This council actually has that purview and authority as a charter city. And again, that's because from a long time ago, we thought that that was an Oroville value. So the idea of a constitutional republic goes to the very core and foundation of our city, of our community, what we're all about. Moving forward, certainly, you could debate that. But since we're not a democracy, I thought, though, it would be interesting just for the tally, which I collaborate with the city. I was doing the count and reading the emails myself. And so it was 10 and 7 with 2 questions, 10 in favor of, and then 5, 6, 7, 8 that were opposed to us going this way. And then tonight, if my count's correct, There were 10 yeses, we like it, and 2 nos here tonight. So 20 and 11. 20 say, yeah, we like this resolution, and 11 saying that we don't like it, and then 2 for looking for clarification. I say all of that to preface, I have a problem with a part of it. And I just want to clarify that. So I numbered the whereases, so it's 1 through 12. To get into the weeds a little bit. And the part I have a problem with, and it comes right down to the rule of law, and it has to do with the governor. I want to clarify, I agree in principle with everything on here. What I'm struggling with is the calling out of then San Francisco mayor and now current governor of our state as to some of the findings in 7 or 8 as to the how far he's surpassed his authority in the emergency is yet to be determined in a court. So going back to a rule of law, we are a nation of laws, not of men. With that concept of being understood, what that means, I struggle a little bit with calling out the governor. Clearly, when he was the mayor of San Francisco, he did declare it a city of refuge and thumbed his nose, at the feds, clearly, in doing that, and that's problematic. But the rest of this is yet to be litigated, I think, fully. So I'm proposing that we extract items 5 through 8, the whereases number 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then continue on 9 and on through. So that we essentially are extracting all the pieces that address Gavin Newsom or the governor of the state of California. And again, in principle, it's because a large portion of this has not yet been litigated fully, in my view, and that's really for the courts to decide, not for us to decide. Now, I understand we can do this as a resolution, we can establish this, but I just struggle with, again, the rule of law, the findings. These things need to be fully heard out in court. And I think, additionally, to get a greater level of buy-in, because I think most of us, if we do our homework, we understand we're a constitutional republic. That's what we're all about. We are a nation of laws. Thank God that we are not a democracy because, as the mayor so eloquently pointed out, if 51% decided tomorrow, then that's the way it goes, regardless of who it might punish or, put under some kind of restriction. So we are certainly a republic, and that I appreciate. But I just struggle personally. And again, and the other part of it is giving them credit. Even negative credit, some would argue, is a good thing. And so I, even though those of us that are frustrated with his behavior, we don't like the overreach, to put this in a resolution, I'm conflicted, honestly, for the reasons that I've stated. So I'd just like to hear also from the council. I had reached out. We can do that. I reached out to Pastor Scott, or Vice Mayor Scott, and shared this with him, and we had some discussion on it. I fully respect him, and again, in principle, I'm fully in agreement with everything stated here. But as a resolution, as a city councilman, I struggle with those pieces for the reasons I've stated.
Councilmember Pittman.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the discussion. I certainly start off with I'm in support of this resolution. I also want to answer a question. Someone asked me if this is going to be part or amend the charter. No, this is just a resolution. This doesn't change the charter. I'll just ask Mr. Huber to comment on that. It doesn't become part of the charter. As far as the example, and I was going to raise this about the sanctuary city status of one city in this state, that was done in violation of federal law, period. Just was. And other cities have done the same thing. So consequently, I think using it as an example, I'm okay with. It's an example that we don't want to go down that path. It's a federal law that was violated by a city to declare itself sanctuary city, period. Just flat out. That's all there is to it. The difficulty we have here, and I've seen this in a lot of years of serving as elected representative, is to legislate common sense. That's a tough one. I will say this, and I'll give a respect to the authors of this resolution, this is probably the first time I've seen common sense presented in a way that a city can make this bold statement. I have no problem with the statement as written, or if it be this council wants to amend certain fund, that's fine. But it makes a statement that says, you know, enough's enough. We're done. We're tired. And this is common sense. It just is that simple, that. And across the board, and I hear everyone in this room, and we all know these mandates are just nothing but political theater that's being thrown down upon us. And I don't want to get into the discussion about back and forth, but I will completely support our own immune system is the best method and treatment to anything we have. Doesn't matter what it is. The immune system is your best bet that you've got going on. So I'm in support of it, and I'm curious to hear more members comment on it, but I will say that to me, this is the first time I've seen common sense in a resolution. Thank you.
Councilmember Riggs?
Thank you. I'll begin by saying that I do really appreciate the value that Vice Mayor Thompson put into this and the thoughts, the sentiment to protect our parents and our citizens and their civil rights to choose medical procedures, whether that be a vaccine or a mask, whatever that may be. I appreciate that sentiment, and I encourage everyone to make those personal choices. However, the final paragraph of this resolution reads, "Be it resolved that the Oroville City Council, that any executive order issued by the state of California or by the United States federal government that are overreaching or clearly violate the constitutionally protected rights will not be enforced by the city of Oroville against its citizens." My problem here is that that redirects our current and future council members from a governing body responsible for making decisions and policies to uplift our city into a body that is responsible for interpreting and determining constitutional legality for each and every federal, state, or state mandate, which is not outlined as our duty in our city charter or in our oath of office. The proposed resolution relies strongly on the argument of separation of powers, a concept that is the very root of our government, a system that I believe in and I believe that our entire council agrees with and supports. Fortunately, the current separation of powers already charges one branch of the government with the duty to determine the constitutional standing of laws and mandates, and that is the judicial system, not the Oroville City Council. I'll go as far as also to say that I believe that many of us in this room and throughout the community are misguided about the implications that this resolution may have. The implications do not exceed the city employees. It doesn't protect your children if it was passed. It doesn't protect you guys as individuals. The city council already has the ability to decide and determine how we implement policies or procedures or mandates. We have that ability already, and I encourage us to use that ability. So, I would, however, although I do not support, I support the concept of this resolution. I don't believe that is the purview of this council. I would, however, support this council adding letters of support to any court cases that are looking at the legalities of such mandates and determine those Supreme Court cases or lower level court cases that look at the legality of these mandates. I would support us writing letters in support of those. Thank you.
Councilmember Goodson.
So I'm going to weigh in from a different perspective. I also know that we were elected to be good stewards of the city's finances and that we ensure our city is fiscally sound. That is a part of our obligation. And so I was listening and I was thinking, nobody's addressed what the physical repercussions are, the fiscal impact from both federal and state funding. I know that on a state level, we get a lot of funding for CDBG, our Community Development Block Grant funding, which we fund Catalyst, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, et cetera. We also, from the state, get our gasoline tax. We also get safer grants for our firefighters. And then, of course, on a federal level, we have COVID funding. I think just in the past 2 years, we've gotten approximately $4.8 million. 50 to 280,000 has already been used for public safety. So I guess my question is, without state and federal funding, will Oroville, as a city, be able to stand alone and sustain itself? So I just want to pose this. If this was going to pass, that a part of that resolution be, I think that what should be added is that the citizens are aware and understand without state and federal funding that the city has the potential to become bankrupt. So that's my thought.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, just to, I think to address, from my perspective, both Councilwoman Riggs and Ms. Goodson, Councilwoman Goodson on this, and I'm asking for legal clarification. I think that we would be handling each one of those mandates on its own merits individually, giving the public the opportunity to weigh in for us to make a decision regarding each one of those mandates as they're handed down. I think it would be within the purview of the council to seek legal clarification and or court ruling. This is a resolution, and it's up to interpretation as to how we proceed with this. Even now, under the current mandate, some of us are wearing a mask, some of us aren't, and handling that, I think, from the city, from the city employees and staff, I think we're following the mandates by and large, and so that's being handled so that we're not jeopardizing and or putting people at risk unnecessarily. My wife works at the school district. I wear this mask because I respect my wife. And I respect the city at its request. But that's my perspective. I choose to do that. At my office, I don't. When you come to see me next door, I'm not doing that. And I'm not under a mandate because we're a small employer. But I don't see this as a problem. The language here it's presented, I think we'd handle each case individually. And I think we'd walk that out and we'd go in with our both eyes wide open, understanding what we're getting ourselves into when it comes to funding or jeopardizing funding. And so help me on that. I think just addressing both of the points being made and then seeking clarification.
Sure.
Thanks, because that's what I was asking for, is clarification from you, Scott.
Yeah, this document is not self-effectuating. There is no remedy provision in there that authorizes staff to do anything or to take any action. If some mandate were to come down from either the state or the federal government with which you disagree, subsequent action by the council would be necessary. This would not be able to be used as a sword. Okay, and we can use this to go, and challenge some mandate from the state or the federal government. This is a policy statement. It is not a
binding.
It's not because it can be modified or amended at any time. As a result, there is no risk of loss of funding with it. In fact, let me go back to I'll remind, and I'm going to very much abbreviate, but when many of the cities that passed resolutions to declaring themselves sanctuary cities in violation of, as Councilmember Pittman said, in violation of federal law, the courts ruled that specific actions would have to be taken to give up that funding. That it could not be done based on the current resolution, that it would require some subsequent action. And so I am quite certain that this would not result in any loss of funding for the city. In the event that you thought that it could in the future, you could then revise this, do what you will. But this is not going to put at jeopardy any state or federal funding.
The declaration itself, it's only if we put action to it.
Only if you take subsequent action. And let me be clear, even subsequent action wouldn't necessarily risk any funding. For example, If a man, and this is just a hypothetical, if a mandate were to come down that all local agency employees had to be vaccinated with no exceptions, you could choose to challenge that in court. And if you're successful, then you would be successful, and that would invalidate that mandate. You wouldn't risk any funding from that. You would take up a separate challenge for that. Funding is typically tied to other matters, but not to mandates like that. Could a mandate come down saying local agencies who have their employees vaccinated will get X number of dollars? Then you'd have a choice to make. You can either choose to do it or not, but that's not a mandate, right? That's an optional. If you impose that, then you get the benefits that they outline. Does that make sense? That example?
Yes.
So again, in that instance, that's not a mandate, that's an option for you at that point. There'd be nothing to challenge. You would just decide, do you want to do that or do you not want to do that? And then you get the strings that come attached with it if you decide to go along with it. But this does not change the charter, as Councilmember Pittman mentioned that some had suggested. It is simply a declaration of your position and your ideology or your thoughts at this moment. It doesn't risk any funding. It doesn't change any laws that you have.
I think if I could add on to Mr. Huber's comments, I think what this does is this is a reaffirmation of this community's values and this council's values. So we're not changing anything that already exists there. The issue you would get into, I think, and it would have to take several subsequent actions for that to happen, would be is if you absolutely flagrantly just disregarded all federal mandate and all federal law. You'd have bigger issues than just the funding at that point, but you could jeopardize your funding.
You could
So
jeopardize
it
your
is
funding.
something, that would be considered with subsequent action. But I really believe this is an affirmation of our community's values and this council's values, I think is what we're trying to state here today.
I appreciate the comments, but I assure you, folks, that great thought was put into every bit of this. There was nobody willy-nilly threw something to grandstand. This was a great thought to represent you. So all of these things have been thought of, researched, clarified, and that's why they're there. Vice Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, and I appreciate the comments of this dais and the support shown, and I'm totally fine with the edit that Councilmember Smith proposed in regarding taking out that, because the base statement that I was hoping to make with this declaration would still completely be intact with that. Although I'd love to poke him in the eye, but maybe in person. Just kidding. But yes, just for clarification, obviously this doesn't affect the schools. I wish it did, because I got kids in the schools, and letting them choose. If they're going to get vaccinated, if there's any ramifications, the reality is they're the ones down the road, they're going to have to deal with it. So I would love to have for them, and I applaud several of our school systems that have passed their choice resolutions. So although this resolution doesn't affect different parts of our community, I think that every entity that can stand up should stand up. I think at some point compliance or silence is compliance. So I completely believe that our freedoms are being eroded away, and so therefore, in my opinion, they can keep their money. I'll take my freedom. On a side note, by the way, just so you know that this council, and I mean this council as a whole, from my experience, we've already been operating to some level with this in mind. during this last season of 18 months or so, this council has definitely weighed your freedom. And I mean that everyone here has definitely considered and weighed your freedom. I don't know of any business owner that had police officers come in and push or shut down or do things that you see on the news. There was definitely a direction given to educate from this council. So I just want to say that no matter what's decided here, this council has already, from the start of this whole season, has all weighed your freedom to their core.
Councilmember Pittman.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. I'll be real short. If you notice on the emblem, it says 1906. In 1905 and 1904, this city had 3 different elections to actually incorporate the city. So it just didn't happen easily. It was a tough fight, even in 1905 and 4 and 6, when we finally decided to incorporate. And it incorporated with a charter, and it chose the charter, and there's a lot of reasons for that. What I'll add to what the Vice Mayor just stated is we've already seen some elements of this when we met with the restaurant owners when the threat of ABC coming in to close your restaurants. And we stood hand in hand with them, and luckily they didn't really show up, but we stood hand in hand and said, you know, we're not going to do that. It's just not going to happen. And luckily it didn't. The other thing I take as an observation, I have talked to some of our staff that are recruiting new personnel. We've actually had people come here because they heard of what we stood for. Isn't that interesting? Everybody's leaving California, but people are coming to Oroville. I see this as a recruitment. I really do. I see it as a recruitment. And I applaud you all for showing up to support that. Welcome to Oroville, folks.
Change your mind, Mr. Happ? Councilmember Happ?
Thank you. I have a 9-year-old granddaughter, and I don't think anybody outside her mother that has the right to say what goes in her body. That being said, and really I don't have any, but it's my throat and allergies. But anyway, I don't like government being involved in our lives as much as they are. We have too much government as it is. I don't like it that I have to come down here if I want to put a fence up and get a permit and pay a fee. I don't like that either. You know, I mean, but that's government, and I get it. And I'm glad to hear that our funding would not be jeopardized because we do receive a lot of funding. And that has to weigh, anybody that sits up here, that has to weigh on your mind, and you have to get that clarified through our council that says, no, that we're not jeopardizing that. That's fiscally responsible. With the fact that, unfortunately, we can make this resolution and pass it, but it's not going to affect the school. It's not going to affect anything. I mean, the school's still going to, if they require it, that's what's going to be required, and there's not one thing we can do about it. And unless the attorney tells me I'm wrong on this, this council can't go in there and say, no, school board, you are going to let the kids in without a mask or without vaccination or whatever. That I don't think we have that authority. No. And so, with that being said, basically, we're saying here that no, we don't want people involved in our personal health issues and that. Right now, if anybody in here is a nurse or a doctor or any type of medical people that have access to medical records, let it slip one time. Oh, I saw Joe over here because, he came in with whatever. See what happens to them. They will be down the road so quick and a lawsuit in their back pocket. That's exactly what happens. So, you know, to me, I just don't like the fact that government can then come in and tell me, well, you're going to take a shot or you're going to wear a mask or your kids are or whatever. Well, no, you know, that's my decision. or my, or my wife's decision on our children. So to me, I see, basically all we're doing is making a political statement and saying that we don't go along with being forced into something. Has absolutely no teeth. Understand that, has zero teeth. But it's well, and I agree with you, and I'm telling you I agree with you. It's just the fact that make sure that you don't think that if this passes tonight, that all of a sudden your world changes and it's a better place, because it's not. It's going to be the same thing that you walked in here tonight with. So anyway, that's just what I'm here to tell you. I see both sides of the issue, and to me, as long as our funding is not in jeopardy, because we have to look at everything, the whole picture. So with that, it'll be up to the council how they want to go.
Are there any further comments from this dais? Councilmember Goodson?
Yes, I would like clarification from Councilwoman. I wanted clarification on the, it was 11?
Right here.
Is that how you numbered it?
Right there,
Be it
Number
further
things we can,
resolved.
That's all. Oh, yeah.
number 11.
Thank you.
What do you want me to?
Right, I didn't quite hear everything that you had said in regards to 11, be it further resolved.
Oh, well, I
in
believe that
regards
that
to the-
moves us as a body that is here to decide the policies to uplift our community into a body that is interpreting mandates on a legal or constitutional standing. And that is not the, in my perspective, that is not the duty of this body, nor is it the duty of this body to make political statements that, that just align with our ideals.
All right. Thank you for clarification.
Sorry.
I wanted to make sure. All right. Thank you.
If there are no further comments, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Please do.
Including Councilmember Smith's edits of removing 5, 6, 7, and 8, everything that has Gavin in it. That this motion be approved.
I'll second that.
Okay.
He said that that's not a problem.
This one right here.
It's not a problem,
to
according
take
to the
it out?
attorney, to leave it.
To leave it?
It's not a problem. When he clarified, when I asked him about Chrissy and you, that's not a problem. Because if the issue stands on its own, we can vote on it in the future. So we can decide.
So if this was a problem in the future.
We can say, no, I'm not going with it.
Mr. Huber, I have a question for you in regards to, it's been labeled 11. So this would be addressed in the future in the event that we decided to take action on something very specific coming down from a federal level.
You would have to, you would have to take some sort of action if a mandate or if some requirement came down with which you disagreed.
So this would be, it has the potential to be revisited.
Well, and sure, it can be revisited at any time the council wishes to, whether or not there's a mandate. But yes, it would necessarily be revisited if there was some mandate that you wanted to challenge.
It would have to be revisited.
By necessity.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 6 yeses and 1 no.
And with that, we will move on to reports, discussions, and correspondence. Are there any announcements from this council?
I could already talked to would have let you know.
Either way.
So much fun.
Thanks for that 5, 6, 7, 8. 'cause I was done after that.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I just want to remind everyone, as it was pointed out earlier in public comment about Veterans Day parade, which is on the 11th, right? As it's always on the 11th, 11/11, and at 11 o'clock, we're going to have a parade here in downtown Oroville, which is amazing, awesome, yeah. And I just want to remind everyone, again, you can get applications either next door or online, because we want everyone to jump on board, show your patriotism here in Oroville, because we are certainly a very patriotic, passionately patriotic community. And to add to that, many of you know Pee Wee. He has reached out, and we next door we put an application in to turn the convention center parking lot into a Huey helicopter landing pad. Yeah, so we're bringing in a Huey. It's going to land there as a part of the parade festivities, and I believe we're going to have a World War II airplane kind of fly over at a legal altitude. I see that. I see the eyes of the the attorney kind of raising, but no, it's just really exciting. I think it's an opportunity to celebrate, our vets and all the contributions, and we know what they do, and I think we're all just completely behind that. But I just want to reach out to everyone, remind you, hey, come on out, celebrate, be a part of the parade, or at least stand by the sideline and shout and yell, and show your enthusiasm and patriotic spirit for our community. Thank you.
Are they going to throw live turkeys out of the helicopter?
The Chamber of Commerce. Yes, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Pittman, please.
Yeah, thank you. I can't think of a better choice of Richard Warmack to be in the parade. He's an old friend of mine, and he was second wave at Iwo Jima. A lot of good stories. Listen to that guy. He's got them all too, and he's very coy about talking about them. But he was a Marine in the second wave at Iwo Jima, and he's got some hitting that black sand was quite an event for him. The other thing I'd like to comment on is Public Works crews really did a great job this year cleaning out the ditches. We had the first rain, and normally I've seen it flood in a variety of places. I did not see that happen this year. So compliments to Public Works crews. They really did a good job in getting the ditches cleaned out and getting the preparations for the rains to come, because typically we have water across the street at Oro Dam at the old Sabre Apartments, and then we have it sometimes coming across Oro Dam by I call the old Firestone store, and I did not see that this year, so that's a good thing, and I appreciate that, and please pass the word to Public Works that we appreciate what the crews did. They did a good job this year. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilmember Goodson.
I just want to piggyback off of what you just said. You're absolutely right. I have seen Public Works out and about in the Southside community. Ordinarily, we have some real major,
Yeah, it's true.
major puddles, and I didn't see any, and that was a major storm. So thank you. Thank you very much, Wade Atterbury and your team.
Okay, future agenda items. Is there anything? Having nothing at this time, administration reports. Mr. Legron.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, just to remind the council, I also believe there's going to be a fly-in on the 11th of November at the airport.
13th.
Is it the 13th?
13th, yes.
Okay, so we are going to be having a fly-in on 13th, so if you show up on the 11th, you should get good seating because you'll be the first one there. Just so that is coming on that day. Usually it's an interesting event if you like to see airplanes, and sometimes there's old cars, and usually a pancake breakfast associated with those things, and it supports the EAA and helps that organization. So it's a good event. I believe Councilman Smith, is it 10?
8 o'clock. Starts at 8, yeah. It's out at the airport on the 13th. It's a Saturday.
So if you show up
Weather
on the
permitting.
11th at 10 o'clock, I mean, that's just...
Weather permitting.
You don't know what they're talking about.
Okay, yeah, weather permitting, of course. The other thing I just want to remind the council, or just let the council know, is that we are looking at the front of the building. Our building here, it looks terrible. It's coming apart, so we've had some construction folks look at that. We also have some doors on the buildings that we're going to have to get replaced because they're not functioning properly. It's not that staff doesn't know how to use them. It's just that they do not work as they once did. So you will be seeing some changes to the front of our building and some construction. There'll be no huge aesthetic changes unless you decide upon that. So, but we are going to be addressing the fact that it is rotting and falling off.
I mean, while you just said that, as far as aesthetics go, I know this at one time was the firehouse, right? I personally would love to see whatever happens out front reflect that, or even go back and mimic. I know that the building nearby, they did made it look like a train station. If there could be something that could be done to give, a remembrance of history of what this building originally was built for, I think that'd be pretty awesome.
A mural of the skunk
I would
on the front door, that'd be cool.
agree with the sentiment to honor this building's history. I think that it's more appropriate to do that, though, in the architectural design of the building, restoring it to its original architectural design instead of updated facade improvements.
Okay, we'll be looking at that, and what we'll do is we'll get some ideas back to you before we take any action on that. I just want to let you know that we have heard you when you've told us that you're not happy with the way that our building looks and the image that it presents, so we will be addressing that.
Just to throw another thing in there, I know this is not an agenda item, so I don't want to push my limits here. But regarding the front, just off the topic, my thought is there was garage doors. That's those 3 panels there. If it looked like beautiful wood, like it was a garage door, not a garage door, but a firehouse, something like that. Anyway, it's my thoughts.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll bring you back some ideas and get your input on that before we move forward.
I would just like to say that the outside of the building is not as important to me as the love inside.
Correct.
Thank you. Chief
That's all.
Tens. Tom Lando?
Yeah.
Mr. Huber? Ruth?
I have something. We sold $20 million of bonds last Thursday.
All right.
So we paid off our old 2007 pension obligation bonds, and we're going to be sending a big fat check to CalPERS in a couple weeks. And we've been working with our actuary on what best basis to target, and so it's been a long process, but it was a lot of fun that morning watching our bonds go up for sale, and we could see all the people that were buying them, and we were up against 2 other cities that were also selling pension obligation bonds, but our credit rating really made a big difference, and ours were sold so fast, and they said we even attracted buyers that they don't normally get, so we got a lot of positive feedback, and we got an interest rate of 3.2%.
And Ruth, what was our previous interest rate?
6.8.
So you cut your interest in half.
That
Did your department throw some sort of celebration?
No.
Could you plan that for your team when you send the CalPERS check? You guys deserve it.
Yeah, we should do that. We should get a big giant check. But I will bring to you maybe as an attachment to the next agenda to show you how our old payment schedule was like this, and now it's going to be like this because we just have a bond payment. But we are going to have residual liability. We did not want to overfund, so there's still going to be residual liability. We have our 4 million PARS account to address those. I would like to, if possible, I'd like to keep paying that off every year like we do our PEPRA. So there's still a lot of decisions to make, and I know they just had a really great investment return this year, but we don't get that for 2 more years. So I just want you to keep in mind, we still going to have a balance, but in 2 years that should clear out, and we just need to keep addressing it, keep it to zero. So we have a lot of strategy to do, but we're doing it.
Great job, Ruth. Thank you.
One thing as we were looking at this and going through this process, an observation I had that particular morning is that the bonds were actually overprescribed. We were trying to sell 19-point-something million dollars worth of bonds. People attempted to purchase $24 million worth of bonds from us. So we are, as investors look at it, people who this is how they make money, we're a good investment. And these are not foolish people. These are not people with small amounts. I mean, they're coming in and they're buying, $1 million worth of these bonds all at once. So I think that the council's done a very good job managing this city, and you should be proud of that. And a lot of people may not understand what a big deal this is. But to cut your interest rate in half on anything is huge. I mean, so very good job from Ruth's department, very good job, council.
Dawn?
Yes, the convention center lighting upgrade has been completed, so that was very quick, I know.
Wow.
I had the same gasp. So the Tectum ceiling tiles will be going in the next week or two, and so our lighting contractor, they sent us the video so I can send that on to you. The lighting is great. It really brightened up the facility. It looks like a true gymnasium now. Also, the signage at the front of the Oroville Convention Center is scheduled to be installed at the end of this month. So that will also change the whole facade of that facility. Also, our leaf pickup program commenced yesterday, November 1st, and will continue on until January 1st. You can find the details of that program on our city's Facebook page. It will be in areas with curb, gutter, and sidewalk this year.
Thank you. Amy, did you have any? Okay, well, with that, we will adjourn till November 16th, 2021 at 4 p.m.
Hey, Chuck, tomorrow is Jackie's birthday, if you see her.
She just had one last year.
People these days, they want them every